Test, test.
Check.
Good morning. Good morning. We are meeting this morning, June 11th, 2025, for the regular agenda of the City of Lamarque's Police Association Collective Bargaining. Notice is hereby given that the City of Lamarque, Texas, and the Lamarque Police Association will conduct a meeting on June 11th, 2025, beginning at 9:30 a.m. in the council chambers at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas, in accordance with section 551.127B of the Texas Government Code. The presiding officer and a quorum of the Lamarque City Council intended to be and will be physically present at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas. This location will be open to the public and meeting will be broadcast at this location on channel 16 and via YouTube. We will be meeting for the purposes of considering the following agenda. Calling the meeting to order. J.B. Pritchett, City of Lamarque City Manager.
Gus Knable, outside city attorney.
Randall Aragon, Chief of Police.
Mr. Kirk.
John Kerr with Combined Law Enforcement Associations, lead negotiator for Lamarque Police Association.
Richard Garcia, President, Lamarque Police Association.
Conan King, Association member.
Josh Human, Association member.
Stephen LaCroix, Association member.
Thank you all. At this time, I will ask Chief Aragon to give our invocation, and I will ask Mr. Stephen LaCroix to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able, please stand.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this meeting, this very important meeting that we're holding today. Please give us the wisdom and judgment to make the best decisions for my officers and workers in the city at whole. We need a business approach to the management process, that we must consider the people side and business side of every issue. Look after my officers and the staff attending this. We ask this in your name, we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Item 4, citizens' participation limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who is signed up to speak, limited to 3 minutes. If wishing to give the mayor or presiding officer your full legal name and item you wish to speak about in compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. Press *6 to mute or unmute if you are participating by telephone. Press the unmute button if attending via Zoom on a smartphone, tablet, or computer, or stand if attending in person, and you will be called at your turn. At this time, do we have any members wishing to speak online? Hearing none, do we have any members in person wishing to speak at this time? Hearing none, we will move forward to item 5, new business. Items presented for discussion and possible action. Item 5.1, negotiating economic and non-economic terms of the police collective bargaining agreement. Good morning. Good morning. Now the fun begins. We have a few things, honestly, for when it comes to obviously what was proposed to us last time in the matters of the association, and under review and discussions with chief of police and management in regards to those things. We have, and before you today is the submission of proposals from the city of Lamarque in regarding to economic and non-economic terms in relations to the CBA. As we move, I will just move down the page as we discuss for the record. Item 1, the chief has the right to appoint up to 8 officers appointed 8 positions. However, the chief has the discretion not to fill these positions immediately. The breakdown as it sees fit at this time is 2 captains, 3 lieutenants, and 3 sergeants. Item 2, phase reduction and elimination of compensatory time accrual. Item A, the proposal states that any time over 180 hours be paid out as overtime and no longer banked for future use. Item B, current CBA, page 19 and 20 reads as follows. An officer may elect to receive compensatory time in lieu of overtime to an accumulated maximum of 180 hours. If at any time the officer's accumulated comp time balance exceeds 180 hours, the officer agrees to utilize any earned comp time within a 45-day until the balance of the accumulated comp time is less than 120 hours. If at any time the officer's accumulated comp time balance is over 180 hours, the officer must be paid for overtime worked. Item C, a revision to read as follows. If at any time the officer's accumulated comp time balance exceeds 180 hours, the officer will be paid for such overtime worked. Item 3, phasing out the corporal position and transitioning to a dual sergeant shift model. Breakdown A, the corporal position will be phased out through natural attrition, reassignment, or promotion. No new corporals will be appointed or promoted going forward. Existing corporals may be offered opportunities for professional development and preparation for promotion to sergeant or reassignment as deemed appropriate. Item 4, revising the step levels of compensation. Officers would top out earlier. Would y'all like me to read each one of these steps? The steps are as follows in section A for officers. The item B, corporal pay would be merged into beginning sergeant pay as follows in steps A through D. A note, current sergeant pay would not be affected. Item 5, employees holding the rank of sergeant or higher shall be prohibited from engaging in any secondary employment outside of the city of Lamarque. Breakdown A, due to perception of senior level supervisors working outside of their jurisdiction. Moving on, items opposed or concurred include the following. Increasing certification pay, opposed. Increasing special response team, SRT, and investigative pay to 300. Concur with investigator increase, but no standby time will be paid due to increasing stipend. Opposed in increasing SRT assignment pay due to the potential of 16 hours of overtime each month that the members of this team receive. Adding K9 assignment pay. Opposed due to 30 minutes per day not worked of compensated time due to care of the animal. Hostage negotiation stipends. Opposed. Increasing monthly uniform ammo purchase and equipment pay from 85 to 125 per month. Opposed. Other desired changes and clarifications. As a point of discussion, change for individual officer as it currently reads in the CBA as follows. Whenever assigned days off or hours of work for less than an entire unit are rescheduled, the effective officer or officers shall be notified at least 7 calendar days in advance of the change. Prior notice shall be required in emergency situations or in cases where such notice would unduly disrupt the operations of the department. An emergency in this article is defined as a time when there is not enough officers to adequately staff the shift. It is not a violation of the 7-day rule if the change is by mutual agreement. The following items will be considered by the city manager and to request that CLEAT also produce metrics listed below. Regarding the salary surveys, include for each comparison city a box for the following dimension. Total income revenue stream per 100,000 population for each comparison city. Total incoming revenue stream city population times 100 equal total incoming revenue stream for 100,000 population. And please include for each comparison city a box for the following dimension. Total budget for the city and the percentage dedicated specifically to the police department operations and another category of fire department operations. concludes this forum. At this time, I open the floor.
Is there anything that the chief wants to make remarks that are on the list that he wants us to be aware of?
Yes, can I talk about one thing? Yeah, John, the latter part that the city manager talked about regarding surveys, you're good at this stuff. You're magic when you do these charts and all, and the one with the salaries. Let me just say this to the group, I'm going to use an analogy and kind of wear out Deputy Chief on this analogy. And this is kind of very basic. You got a CEO working at Valero at Texas City, and he has a son, 12 years old, and he's paying him an allowance. Then you got a guy working at Mike's grocery store on 1765, and he's a clerk. He doesn't make the money that CEO makes. He pays his son $5 a month allowance, 12-year-old, and the CEO pays his son $100 a month. And you can see the difference. There's a revenue stream that the other one doesn't have. So when we look at a salary chart, which is great to show how much more or equal another city makes, you've got to count the revenue stream that comes in, and it's easily found, John. As you know, you go to the budget, which is usually online. Like I looked at Texas Cities, and it just as an example, if I recall, their total revenue stream, taxes, property tax, license fees, et cetera, is about 71 million. Okay, and ours was like 21 million or thereabouts. Obviously, when you talk about the CEO's money, we don't have the same money another city has. So you got to look at the whole picture. And John, we want to see the whole picture. We got to see what we should be paying based on our revenue stream. And if we had untold money, we would obviously have no problem. That's all I want to do. So on the right of your, if you would, John, on the right of your salaries, if you could have that total incoming revenue stream per 100,000, that puts everybody at the same level. And also another one saying % of budget of the total budget for the city that's spent for that. That's something we would like to see. That would give us a better image, overall picture. Okay. Just the salary is not alone good enough. It's not the full picture. We got to have a full picture. Okay. All right. That's all I have right now, unless you have a question.
Okay, let me comment. I certainly don't have a problem trying to look at some of these additional qualifiers in regards to statement of I guess the net ability for the city to pay, however you want to frame it. But one thing I would remark is that, the cities that were selected in the survey represent the police market of the area. And these are places that your employees can be recruited by and go to work for. And we're still in a position where the city's ability to pay has to be maximized on some professional positions that it has to maintain. And like I said, public safety is paramount to the citizens. I would argue that most citizens will tell you that's the biggest or the largest majority of what they pay their tax dollars to a city for, is to ensure that, they have public safety and also roads and things like that. But this is just, one page out of the entire story. I'll take a look at it, but I would comment that city manager has professional personnel working within his budget preparation and finance department that probably could put these numbers to bear pretty quickly, because they probably already have them on hand. I'll have to go out and seek them. I'll see what I can do. But it's, no matter what these numbers are, it's not going to change the hiring and market in this area and what's going on. So I think the city has to arm itself with all the knowledge, and then it has to make the best possible decision it can make in regards of resource allocations. So city manager working with the city council makes those decisions annually. And in this type of situation, we're looking at a longer term contract. So basically they're gonna determine what makes sense for the city. even if I paint a financial picture that's better in some cities versus others, it's still gonna come back to the material interest of the taxpayers in this venue. And so there's, to try to make this time as productive as possible, we'd like to basically caucus and discuss these issues that have been presented so that we can, to maximize the time for us here in the room. It would be better if we created a list of questions very concise so we can put it to both the chief and city manager and get, because our next trip is with the membership and they're going to ask us these questions. We want to make sure that we have a 100% rock solid answer to any of the things that anyone may have seen in the recording of the meeting today or the actual airing of the meeting. So at this juncture, if it's okay with you guys, we'd like to caucus for probably at least 30 minutes to kind of go through the list of things and see what questions are from members of the bargaining team.
I guess first I'd like to retort and first and foremost of the comments of staff and obviously our finance department, all of those items. One, I concur 100%, and those are being done on our side as well. That request, I think from the chief, if anything, is to make sure that again, transparency as a whole is there, not that we aren't gathering that information and would have that information available. We wanted to give obviously ample opportunity for y'all to do the same thing. We will be collecting that information, some of which we have, some of which we don't, in order to best serve as we move forward on this as a whole. As far as the request as a whole, absolutely. I think that that is a reasonable request for us to recess for a time to discuss. Obviously, for the course of the event, you will need to discuss with all of your members and all of the above. So I don't believe that that's any problem whatsoever. And for the budgetary confines of the city of budget season rather than the budget itself, again, Mr. Kerr, I concur with your items that you stated, and what the attempt is there to do is just like you said, this is not just for today, but this will be over the next course of the few years between the association and the city of Marque. And so we want to obviously make sure that both sides are aware of all of that, and we prepare effectively and accordingly. Absolutely, yes, to them. Did you have something, Mr.? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Relating to the matter that you discussed, Chief, about the backside for salary surveys. I also, at the time of y'all's caucus beforehand, it would be my diligence to also point out the other desired changes and clarification items just above of the point of discussion, the change for individual officers, that section. I know we talked about it in our last meeting for at least a proposed change on there, if anything, and we can do that after y'all break. But I wanted to leave the floor open for that discussion. There's been some communication as well as some back and forth for the people on this side of the table. And obviously I wanted to give ample time for all of us to discuss. I'm not a police officer, nor do I pretend to be. And so I'm trying to understand the day-to-day operations of your association members as officers. And so for us to discuss that after caucus for the individual change, I would like at least someone to elaborate on that for when we come back at that discussion point.
I think one thing that would before we go back and talk about some of these things. I think the association wants to know with regards to the positions that the chief has the right to appoint and pay the officers and outlines what these positions are. Are those anticipated additions to the police budget, or are we talking about conversions of current standing positions budgetarily? Because I mean, it makes a huge difference in the minds of folks, whether or not they're new positions or old positions or conversions.
I'll cover that, John. It's not increasing the staff at all. It's using internal staffing for each position. So we're not bringing the staff increase at all.
So can you give me an example of how you would implement that? If you're gonna appoint 3 sergeants, where would they come from?
It come from, well, whoever is not a sergeant could be there, or it could be a sergeant that is there, corporal, or any rank at that level. Same thing with the lieutenants and the captain. It would be, and I use this analogy, we need to have the right people in the positions. And sometimes, I know, and I always say this, you know, people are the most important asset, but really it's the right people are your most important asset. We know people have certain skills, and we want to be able to pick the ones that we feel like should perform on those positions. That's our thought.
So
Sergeant.
my question is, and maybe I'm not understanding, sir. We have 3 lieutenants right now. What happens with them?
Oh, when they would remain, the way our plan is right now, they would stay
So we
lieutenant.
could potentially have 6 lieutenants. That's what I'm asking.
No, it'd be, we have,
sergeants, we have 3 lieutenants.
right. Yeah, it could be more. We're not going to change their position. It would be adding somebody to be another lieutenant or so.
So where would?
From the staff, it could be from patrol or
Make our
Ye-
presence on the street.
it could, it could,
Okay, I
It
just wanted
could.
to.
It could, or- yeah. It'd be some,
Coming from.
could be a detective, it could be some, you know, whatever.
Those 8 potential spots could be 8 patrolmen that are no longer patrolling the street.
It could be,
Right.
right.
So like also, does that, let's say if it's, you know, you're appointing 3 sergeants, and so we got 2 sergeants at the table, does that say like, okay, I don't want King to be a sergeant anymore, I want Roy, is that what you're?
So let me say this, some of these positions, what our thought is, or vision is not to do it now. It could be in the latter part of the contract. In other words, it could be not this year, it could be 2 years from now. Some might be right now. Some might be down.
I would also add, when we move down to item 3 about phasing out that corporal position and moving to dual sergeants. Right, that's the other aspect of that.
But as far as like lieutenants or something, and say if I don't want one of the lieutenants, I want to appoint my own, you're not a lieutenant anymore, but now you are. So it's like, it could be a.
No,
Wouldn't take it away.
no, we would not take away the positions of rank currently covered in the CBA, meaning that if you had 3 lieutenants, those 3 lieutenants would stay 3 lieutenants. What this is asking is for the appointed of additional.
I may to try to clear it up because I feel you. I feel you, Sergeant. I think for everyone, for my edification as well, I believe what the ask is you will continue. You all's concern is about the tested positions. Am I correct? And not only the positions that you test for, but also the concern, y'all don't want anybody losing the rank they currently have. Those are y'all's 2 concerns, correct?
We still want to make sure that there is, if we have 3 lieutenants that are tested now,
Right,
those lieutenants earned it, the ones that are just given it. then
Right,
they
right.
wanna- If they want to do that, that's fine, but we are
Right.
not going to lose those 3.
No,
spots.
yeah.
so the app, yeah, so the,
No.
yeah, and the ask from y'all is, will, not only that, but will there continue to be those positions that are tested? Am I correct in that is your ask?
Yes.
Okay.
We're trying not to lose.
I,
the
perfect.
need
and I, okay,
for mobility for our movement.
right,
No.
understood, and so does the city, do we all understand?
We concur. Yes, we understand and we agree.
Does that help clear it up? At least clarify the ask.
And this is something else.
I don't know what you're gonna say to it.
Well, I think it'd be productive for us to caucus and then
yeah.
actually itemize the questions that way we can run down.
I think that's appropriate, John.
You know, that will maximize, let's get everybody on this side of the table, question 1, 2, 3. And then that way the chief doesn't have to go back and forth. Cover the same subject matter a couple of different ways. So this way we can formulate some, questions and maximize the use of our time for today. I'm sure we all got things we want to take care of and get information on it, but it just maximizes our ability to.
Absolutely. I guess for operational, at the time of that, would y'all prefer to stay here? Would you like to step away? Would you like us to step away? Whatever is easiest for you. Okay,
I think it'd be easy for us. Do you have another room we can use or run over the fire department?
We can figure that out once we go.
okay,
Figuring out what room.
sure. Yeah, sure. Any other items at this time, gentlemen? All right, then, given that, we will move into, the caucus and we will be back momentarily. Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are continuing our discussion for the agenda proposed of the regular agenda between the City of Lamar and Police Association collective bargaining. We are back. We are still on the item of new business 5.1, negotiating economic and non-economic terms of the police collective bargaining agreement. Gentlemen, at this time, I would like to point out that Mr. Dashcan too, as the alternate of the Police Association, has stepped up to the table, and Mr. Stephen LaCroix has stepped away. Other than that, I know that y'all recessed to discuss, and I will open the floor to y'all.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to have caucus so we kind of collect our thoughts on some of the questions. While we were back there, information was given to us that on these appointed positions, that they would be new budgeted positions, not current budgeted positions. Is that still what we're talking about here?
Yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure that's on the record, so.
Thank you, sir.
On the next one has to do with the elimination of comp time accrual. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but I just want to ask the chief, what is the intent here? Is it to cap the total number of comp time?
Mr. Kirk,
100.
do you have a list of questions?
Kind of hand scribbled here. I was just gonna.
Okay. I think that it'd be best.
We only have basically 5 asks. It can be answered real quick across the table. We can provide it to you in writing later if you'd like.
I think that would be best to provide in writing. At this time, what I will ask is we go through those questions, we can make notes, and then we will ask for a caucus as well.
Okay. If
And
tell-
you were on item 2, correct?
yeah,
Okay.
and we don't necessarily have questions about some of these things. It's just the things that we want a little clarification
Sure.
on number 2, which is the comp time issue. We want to kind of determine what the intent of the language would be kind of pinned out. Is it so that there's a maximum number at 180 and then every minute over that is paid, so it is not accrued and doesn't have a unfunded liability impact, or are you trying to change operationally, or just?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
No,
whatever.
sir. He's not.
We're gonna talk amongst ourselves and provide more substance.
We're making the notes so that we can then caucus to make sure that we give them accurate information.
Got it. And then number 3, when we talk about phasing out corporal positions and transitioning to a dual sergeant shift model, is it safe for us to assume that currently there's 5 corporal positions and it's your intent to phase those into new sergeant positions that don't exist today and alleviate or abolish the corporal position, so that the structure of the department would change to have more sergeants, no corporal? And we don't want to make assumptions, but it appears that that's what. But you may have a different shift modeling for the future that hasn't been articulated here, so there's fewer sergeants needed in the future. We don't know, so we just want to make sure that just from a common sense standpoint, it would appear that you want to alleviate corporals and make them sergeants over time. And from a phase standpoint, so there'd be no new corporal, and those positions would go to sergeant positions, we assume. So there'd be officers and sergeants.
Yes, sir. Understood.
And then we'll skip through the rest of it because it's all pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Except for this note, which I think goes with the materials on the front, but at the top, you've got the note that says current sergeant's pay would not be affected. But yet, what you have here on paper affects sergeant pay. So you're talking about current sergeants in the current position, pay wouldn't change, and that this new pay matrix that's listed at the very bottom would take effect where you lower the beginning
Mhm.
promotional rank for sergeant, or is that something different that we're not picking up on? And then the last one has to do,
John, there's three now. Good. I got three. See, there was five.
do what now?
Hold on, Chief. Hold on.
Y'all can count it down or whatever. I'm just
He's
saying
asking
that,
he's asking a question about something.
yeah, apparently there's 5 corporal positions. I mean, not apparently, there are 5 budgeted corporal positions today. And there are, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 sergeants. So you're gonna want to go to a dual sergeant system of management. I envision that on patrol, but it can go everywhere. And so are you talking about moving 5 corporal positions and over the phase, however that is discussed, so that now there'd be 10 sergeant positions and no corporal positions, or did you have some other composite aggregate total in your mind?
The question is understood and we will provide clarification, sir.
And then, like I said, on the top of the page, there's no current sergeant's pay. But this changes, so
Understood.
is that current sergeants that are already promoted, their change will not pay no matter what it is, versus changing the matrix to something different. And then may have to ask the guys to help with this. We just kind of want a clarification with regards to supervisors not being allowed to work part-time employment outside the city. Is I get this to me. So assuming that it would only be supervisors, then there may be the feeling by some that is different treatment from one member of the department versus the other. What is the philosophically, what do you think the not allowing supervisors to work part-time jobs that they currently can with all officers? What is the goal there? Is it to make them independent arbiters or questioners, or is it geared up to keep them in the city? Or we don't want to assume anything. We just want to find out from the chief what his idea is and why he wants to make that new rule, if you will. And then the other aspects of the points of discussion, I just think we can discuss that over time to make sure that as far as how the contract language is going forward will be a composite of what both sides want it to mean. But when we're talking about changing someone's work cycle within the work cycle, whether it be attend a meeting or whatever, we would hope that everybody realizes that we don't want members' work cycle to be changed consistently every week because there's new meetings and things like that. So in that context, it's kind of like, there's passages under FSLA and stuff like that, they kind of limit an employer's ability to change the beginning at any time within a cycle to avoid paying you overtime. So if it gets to be a decision that we can avoid paying overtime by just every other week telling you you're going to work a different schedule, that's not something that we want to work with. We want advance notice, but unless it's intended to be a permanent change, we need to have some kind of a dialogue to try to make sure that that we're on the same page about, we understand the department has needs, but by the same token, all these officers have families and they have needs as well. So when we talk about discussion, I think we need to discuss it out, possibly with the chief, make sure we get it down, honed down, so that in the best interest of all parties considered, so. Anybody else think of anything we didn't cover? Because that's pretty much all the questions that we just want a little clarification. A lot of this is very straightforward, but, if nobody else has anything to add, then I guess this, if you want to take a caucus and come back, or
Yes,
you
sir.
want to.
Yes, sir. I think everything that you have said, we can clarify rather quickly, so we won't have to take that long. We just want to make sure that we're concise.
Y'all want here, or do y'all want?
We can step away. Yeah. If you want to step back in the AC. you
With all the cameras and
can.
Swamp fans, perfect.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll be back momentarily. Good. At this point, I believe we're in afternoon. Good afternoon. We are back to City of Lamar Police Association Collective Bargaining, regular agenda of June 11th, 2025. Returning back to new business item 5.1, negotiating economic and non-economic terms of the police collective bargaining agreement. At this time, I will ask for a little bit of grace, as I will not only put on the record, but will admit I'm fighting off a migraine. And so I'm going to have Mr. Knable articulate and clarify the items. And let me also point out that at this time, Mr. Human, from the member of the association, has stepped away. So Mr. Knable, if you will take our items and clarify them for the other side.
Sure. So, John, I'm just gonna step down your list. On the question of the comp time accrual and what's the justification and or intent. You correctly hit on, it's the unfunded liability issue. The citywide is attempting to address that and is encouraging people to use the time that they have. And if it's not used, we would like to not have it roll over, but pay it out. Keep it off, keep a big balloon off the books. So that's what that is. The question about phasing out the corporal and transitioning to the dual sergeant shift policy. Is it safe to assume the intent is to abolish the corporal position? Yes, with a big caveat. No corporal, nobody who is currently a corporal is proposed to lose their corporal position. The phase out will occur through natural attrition. The current corporals will promote. They will promote, or they will otherwise, or they could continue to serve in a corporal position. In which case they would do so until they retire. That's and so so that's what the thought is there. The current sergeants, what's the question about the current sergeant's pay not being affected? To clarify, and candidly, that's the same question, John, so I get where y'all are coming from. This proposed corporal pay is that is for corporals who the proposed sergeant pay, I'm sorry. That is for corporals, the people who are currently corporals, who are promoted to the appointed sergeant positions. If so, and let me try to explain it in greater detail. You currently have 5 sergeants. Should you accept our proposal, there would now be 8 sergeants. 5 of those sergeants will be tested at the additional appointed positions that we're talking about. We're not proposing to reduce the number of tested positions currently for sergeants and lieutenants. You have 5 tested sergeant positions. You have 3 tested lieutenant positions. You will continue. We are not proposing to reduce that. So this is just for the sergeants who are appointed. This is what their pay would be, those 3. A little more explanation there. These sergeants and the other the 2 captains and 3 proposed lieutenants, the appointed positions, the proposal there, or the thought there, is that those would be exempt positions, and that would be because of that. And the chief will prepare those duties. So anybody being appointed, I mean, you have the option to not take it. You will have what those duties are, and the thought is that those exempt positions will help. Those operational skill sets will help Lamar PD supplement the administrative duties that you all have to do as the department continues to grow. That's the thought process behind it. Recognizing, of course, as I said, you all have the option. If you don't want to be appointed, you don't have to be. And even people who are appointed, like let's say a corporal today is appointed to be a sergeant. And they make this, they're on this pay scale. That sergeant, that appointed sergeant would still have the ability, should he or she choose to test to be a sergeant. Does that make sense? They could test to be a lieutenant too, but does that make sense? You don't have to like, I just want to make sure
Yeah, I
you understand. That's all. That's all. Okay. Okay, so that should answer that question. You asked for clarification regarding supervisors not being allowed to work outside jobs outside of the city. What's the justification? The justification there is, the management's concerned with the optics of senior leadership operating outside of the city. That's what it is. And then the work cycle the question about the work cycle being changed to avoid overtime. As you said, John, what we are proposing is that would apply twice a month. And not only would it apply twice, management would only have the right to do it twice a month for 1 day. So let's say and I know it's not, but let's say you work Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The entire month. Twice. Management would have the right upon 7 days' notice to say, Sergeant King, we have a meeting that it starts at 6. Is it at 6 p.m.? Why don't, instead of coming in at 8 a.m., you come in at 11 a.m. or noon? And then that way, so we're not bouncing, officers are not being switched constantly. It's just for 2 days. We would be able to do it for a max 2 days, and it would be with the 7 days notice. So it wouldn't be like 1 week this and 1 week that. That's not what it is. That is not the proposal. John, hit the button. There you go. And we can step out if y'all want. Or that's fine.
No, that's, I mean, that's pretty much answers the questions that we have. I think that, obviously we need to savor the flavor of all these things in the context of, the bargaining, having long-term discussions. I'm sure like you, we have a duty to take in everything you give us and massage it and try to move forward in the best interest. So some things, having some additional clarification makes it easier for us to tackle it. With that, I assume we'll probably want to pare these down for consumption by the membership and then do some trial polling with the members about what their rathers are. I can elaborate on some of the positions that we would take, but I can't do that because it's the members that we represent, not John. So that we're kind of stuck in that mode right now where we have to go back and canvass our members and make sure that we're all on the same page. And that's why we wanted the clarification to make sure that we had good factual data that we could share with them and they'd understand. And so I see that nobody in the current position, and I don't want to use a term out of place, but you'd be grandfathered in the context. There'd be no ill to someone who's already promoted to the position that would phase out over time. And that's what, folks are concerned about. They want to know, how am I going to be affected immediately?
Phased out or forced out.
Yeah. So, but budgetarily, you have to do what makes sense with the city. And sometimes, there is positions that have to be added and deleted and things like that. So we understand that, but we just want to make sure that we're talking about the actual impacts and how they affect our members so that they can understand, because sometimes when you get down to the approval of an agreement, it's all about the, numerics of the situation. And if you alienated more than 50% of the membership, you're not going to get a positive vote on the contract. So that's the benefit of going through these questions and trying to make sure that we're all clear on. And then too, from a problem solving standpoint, we want to engage with the city and trying to, solve problems like the unfunded liability, things like that. Now we know for sure what you want to do. We're more than happy to help us get from point A to point B. But we just want to make sure that none of the membership are harmed in that process. So there's no summarial decision tomorrow that says, boom, 180, and that's it. So we have time to work into it. So it is, and it is. So.
And I think the stance is, we understand that obviously that's not only y'all's duty, but we thank you for it, because whereas again, probably situations like large amounts or a balloon of unfunded liabilities is yes, a budgetary item, but to the point of phased out or pushed out or anything like that, it's not the intent. What the intent is, again, for the structural change to create opportunities for the people that we have, as well as with a city that's growing from Mayberry to Metropolis, being able to cover not only the entire city, but also balancing the duties of which. And so, yes, I appreciate that. Absolutely. So at this time, would we have anything else, or would we like to move on to item 5.2?
No, sir, I think that's it.
Okay. I guess a question for sake. Do we have our next date? We do have our next date. Do we not? Yes, sir. July 2nd. Okay.
Do we want to make the presumption that we'll have a meeting thereafter and plan for it now, or are you going to wait till the second to figure out?
Truth be told, I'd rather wait. Just because I think it doesn't tie our hands. It gives you time to obviously meet with your members. And then when we get to the July 2nd date, it would allow us to cohabitate and find the date that would work after that.
And as a reminder, basically that's the last
Yeah.
meeting that we put new subject matter on the table.
Yes.
And thereafter, it has to be by a joint agreement that we add some. So that way we can, kind of limit the scope and put this into a, one pot that we deal with.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm good. And I guess we'll see you back here July the 2nd.
Fantastic. We will see y'all July 2nd. At this time, item 6, we are adjourned. Thank you.